Baseball is America's pastime. It is an iconic sport that has captivated millions, with nearly 16.7 million fans and participants in the United States alone. It is a game of skill, strategy, and heart that captivates people in America and beyond. And its history is just as fascinating as the sport itself. Keep watching to journey through baseball's evolution from its modest beginnings, the things that make it iconic, and the many figures who have shaped its legacy. The early days of baseball. According to American legend, a Civil War hero named Abner Doubleday invented the sport that could eventually be known as baseball in the summer of 1839 in Cooperstown, New York. However, that story is not true. Baseball's real beginnings date back much further, to at least the 18th century, and they are much more complicated than the feel-good story of an American war hero inventing the sport we are so fond of. References to games resembling baseball in the United States date back to the 1700s, and its most direct ancestors appear to be two English games: rounders, a children's game brought to New England by colonists, and cricket, which is still played today. The early variations of baseball likely would have been played in open fields with rudimentary rules, but it gained popularity quickly, especially in the growing industrial cities of the U.S. In 1845, the man often credited as the father of modern baseball changed the sport as we know it. In September of that year, a group of New York City citizens, including Alexander Joy Cartwright, formed the New York Knickerbocker Baseball Club. Cartwright would create a new set of rules, forming the basis for modern baseball. Cartwright established the need for a diamond-shaped infield, foul lines, and the iconic three-strike rule that baseball is famous for. At the time, it was common to tag runners out by throwing baseball balls at them, a dangerous practice that Cartwright may have been responsible for abolishing. His rules made the game faster-paced and more challenging while setting it apart from older games like rounders and cricket. With these Knickerbocker rules, he also set the stage for organized competition. In 1846, just 1 year after its creation, the New York Knickerbocker Club played the first official game of baseball against a team of cricket players. This first game began a new, uniquely American tradition that is carried on to this day. The rise of professional baseball. In some ways, baseball is more than a sport. It is inextricably tied to America's history and its identity. At the start of the American Civil War in the spring of 1861, it was a national sport, and it served an important role. As the war brought players from different regions together, baseball's popularity soared. Although many baseball clubs disbanded or reduced their playing during the war, baseball remained an important pastime. On the front lines, it was a much-needed distraction for the millions of Americans serving their country. Away from the conflict, it remained a popular pastime and a leisure activity. In both places, it brought Americans together and helped them through the war. By 1869, after the war, baseball was still mainly an amateur sport. It had survived the Civil War, but was primarily played as a pastime and hobby. Dedicated players might be in a club. However, until the Cincinnati Red Stockings, there were no professional teams. The Cincinnati Red Stockings, also known as the Cincinnati Baseball Club, marked baseball's transition from pastime to the profession. They were the first entirely professional baseball team in history. While there had been a number of players who were paid to play, no team had ever been wholly composed of paid professionals. The world of baseball changed forever when Harry Wright, a member of the Cincinnati Red Stockings, announced proudly to the press that his Red Stockings were salaried. But how did the team become fully professional? Well, as baseball became more popular, on-field competition heated up between baseball clubs, and there was a rush to attract the most talented players. Enclosing a team's grounds, like Cincinnati did, allowed clubs to charge their fans money to enter the grounds and watch the games. This brought in more revenue for the clubs, and more money was available to spend, so the clubs began to pay for players' services. As they saw how many paid players were on the roster, the National Association of Baseball Players decided to allow professional players in 1869. Harry Wright of the Cincinnati Red Stockings immediately found 10 players to pay, including himself and his brother George. He and his brother are now Hall of Famers. This era laid the groundwork for the American League's formation in 1903, which brought structure and national recognition to the sport. While it has changed since its professional beginnings, with salaries ballooning, some things have stayed consistent. The Cincinnati Red Stockings are no longer around, but their legacy certainly is. The modern-day Cincinnati Reds identifies with the old team. Breaking the color line. In more ways than the Civil War, baseball is intertwined with American history. No figure highlights this more than Jackie Robinson. In the 1940s, racial segregation was still strong, and baseball was no exception. At that point, baseball had been racially segregated for years, although many were campaigning for integration. While black people were allowed to play baseball, they had to play on separate teams called Negro League teams. There were more factors to this segregation than just racial intolerance. For example, many owners of major league teams rented their stadiums to Negro League teams while their own teams were on the road. If baseball were integrated, team owners knew they would lose that opportunity for profit. Others thought a white audience would be reluctant to watch games with black players. That all began to change when one of the most famous names in baseball history arrived on the scene, Jackie Robinson. His story began when the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey, started a great experiment to bring black players onto the team. He'd been planning to get black players to his team since 1942, but he knew that the first player to cross the color line would be subjected to intense public scrutiny. He knew that the player would have to be not only a talented athlete, but also a strong person who could stand against hostility from the racist public. He found that player in Jackie Robinson. In 1945, he signed a contract with Jackie Robinson that brought him into the major leagues 2 years later. As a young man, Robinson had an interest in civil rights. In 1942, when Rickey was beginning his plan for integration, Robinson was drafted into the Army. While there, he succeeded in opening an officer candidate school for black soldiers. He was also court-martialed in an incident in Fort Hood, Texas, where he refused an order to move to the back of a bus. He was exonerated but left the Army in 1944, 2 years after joining. Shortly afterward, he joined the Kansas City Monarchs, a leading team in the Negro Leagues. Just a year later, he signed the contract to join the Dodgers, and he officially broke the major league color line when he donned the Dodgers uniform in April 1947. The expansion era. By the mid-20th century, baseball was no longer just America's pastime. It was a global phenomenon that was growing fast. The years after World War II marked a time of growth and change for Major League Baseball. They added expansion teams, new stadiums, and increased diversity on the field. The expansion era of Major League Baseball began in 1961 and lasted until 1998, which is very recent history. Before this era, there were only 4 MLB teams west of the Mississippi. This era includes 6 expansion teams in Major League Baseball in the 20th century. The first expansion occurred in 1961 with the Los Angeles Angels and the Washington Senators. This marked a significant transformation for the MLB and the beginning of a new age driven by the desire to spread baseball across the country. Shortly after, in 1962, the New York Mets and the Houston Colt 45s, now known as the Astros, joined the National League. For the 1969 expansion season, the Major League expanded by 4 teams. These teams were the Kansas City Royals, the Montreal Expos, the San Diego Padres, and the Seattle Pilots, which would become the Milwaukee Brewers after just 1 season. The addition of the Expos extended the sport's reach beyond U.S. borders and into Canada, laying the groundwork for baseball's international appeal. In 1977, the Seattle Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays were added to the American League. In 1993, the National League added 2 clubs, the Colorado Rockies and the Florida Marlins. Finally, in the most recent expansion in 1998, the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays began to play. This period also saw the rise of players from diverse backgrounds. Latin American players began to leave an undeniable mark on the league. Roberto Clemente, from Puerto Rico, emerged as a trailblazer, not only for his exceptional talent, but also for his humanitarian work, paving the way for future stars from countries like the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Cuba. Asian players also began gaining recognition, with Japanese players later becoming integral to MLB, showcasing the sport's increasing globalization. The game's style evolved too. The expansion era introduced new strategies, thanks to managers willing to push the boundaries, and the designated hitter rule was implemented in the American League in 1973. This rule change brought fresh excitement and controversy, as it fundamentally altered how the game was played. Off the field, advancements in technology transformed how fans experienced baseball. The rise of television broadcasts allowed games to be viewed nationwide, making iconic moments accessible to millions. Night games became more common, drawing larger crowds and making baseball more convenient for fans. The 1975 World Series, often called one of the greatest in history, showcased how baseball could capture the nation's heart through dramatic, nationally televised moments. The expansion era wasn't just about teams and players. It was about making baseball a more inclusive, diverse, and globally recognized sport. These changes set the foundation for the modern game, bringing baseball into a new age of widespread popularity and cultural significance. Modern baseball. Today, baseball is a billion-dollar industry with global appeal, although it is still an American sport at its heart. The game has evolved with advancements in technology, analytics, and fan engagement. It's been America's pastime for the last 200 years, and based on how many fans it has amassed, it seems it will continue to be America's pastime for generations to come. Iconic moments, from historic World Series comebacks to record-breaking home runs, keep fans on the edge of their seats. For many, there is no thrill like watching your team bring home a victory. Major League Baseball has grown in countries like Japan, South Korea, the Dominican Republic, and many more, leading to a much more diverse and competitive league. Players like Shohei Ohtani, who excels as both a pitcher and a hitter, have captured international attention, proving that baseball's appeal goes far beyond America. Baseball's evolution is far from over. In this digital age, its growth is moving faster than ever, with advancements in technology like instant replay, automated ball strike systems or robot umpires, and new ways to track metrics like launch angles or the ball, reshaping how fans and teams can understand the game. In the nearly 200 years since its beginnings, baseball has evolved far beyond its roots. It is a global sport and a billion-dollar industry, and it comes with a unique, timeless appeal, especially in its home country. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook while still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.